Hello and welcome to my thoughts and feelings on the new Doom. Now we've just had the Doom beta weekend. I've talked to a lot of people who day by day play Quake Live, Reflex, Unreal Tournament and those kind of games, so I think more than anybody that should have a decent opinion. I feel like with my personal and their experiences together we can come to some interesting conclusions. Now to really start off, I want to just identify how poorly the graphic settings were presented to us. FOV wasn't even an option. Motion blur you could set to low, and even at that it was just horrendous, and the advanced settings were turned off. Now people are going to say beta is beta, but if you're trying to represent your product, I feel like you should probably do it in its best light, and I can't for any reason see why you'd limit those options in order to represent, especially when there's going to be thousands of people streaming it and watching it and making YouTube videos like this. Why you wouldn't enable those options when obviously they're there? I mean, why they couldn't have shipped those as accessible, I don't know. Next up, the weapons. Overall, I feel like the weapons, the design behind them is good. The models are probably too big, but the rocket launcher felt like a rocket launcher, and the LG, it felt like a proper LG. Well, that's a lightning gun for you guys who are less au fait with the names. And the plasma as well. I mean, the weapon balance is probably not perfect. For example, one major issue was the rocket and the shotgun cooldown. So essentially you could bypass the rocket cooldown by swapping with a very fast swap time to the shotgun and getting a shot off and then swapping back. And also that meant you didn't have to reload the shotgun, which was essentially the cooldown for it. And if you watch Dracu's stream, which I shall link to, one of the VODs, he was just very good at this. And the accuracy, because of that, was just so out of hand. Like, I'm not the best arena FPS player in the world, but I'm quite competent. I was getting easily over 50-60% accuracy, and then Dracu was getting like 70-80 in some cases. It feels really difficult to miss in that game. And the rocket launcher, another problematic weapon in terms of that detonate you can do with the right click. It feels, that's cool, you missed your shot, you can still do some damage, but the emphasis on you missed the shot should be that you missed the shot. If you aim poorly and you can still get damage off, that is hugely problematic for any game you want to call at least slightly balanced and slightly competitive. And I don't think this is going to be a game where we'll see MLG by any means, but at the same time, if it's so easy to do damage, and there is a skill cap there, even if it's a lot lower than a game like Quake Live, you're going to have players who just never miss, and a new player who's starting to learn the controls of an FPS game are just going to suffer. Loadouts, again on the weapons, I mean, this has been covered to high water and back. My thoughts on it are essentially the design and balance behind an arena FPS game, regardless to whether you enjoy map control or not, is that all weapons should have a place and all weapons should be viable given a certain situation. Plasma is good for spamming, and Rails obviously the long range hit scan. So if you only have access to a very small portion of the overall weapon base, that means there's going to be some tasks you just can't do, which is actually not too bad for a team-based mode. Obviously on the outset, the idea of a loadout is bad. There are arguments to be made that it kind of means that in a team-based experience you can have one guy who's a certain loadout and another guy who's a different loadout, and it can actually work in some senses. But the important issue to look at is whether it's an option or not, whether there'll be servers with loadouts on and loadouts off. If loadouts can be turned off, I think then it kind of de-escalates the situation a lot, which is what happened in Quake Live. Loadouts could be turned off, and there's some servers with them on, and I think that's alright. I don't have a huge issue with that. If more casual servers want to have them on, then let them. But I think having it as an option is very important. And obviously in the single player you can have all the weapons, so there's no reason why you couldn't have them all in the multiplayer. The power items, one of which is kind of this Gauss cannon, which I feel is overpowered's a strong word, but it's so powerful. Like, you're almost guaranteed 4 kills with it because you don't have to be that accurate, and it does 150 damage, I think. It's a lot of damage. Then there's a Revenant, which again is very, very strong, but you can get more kills. The rocket launcher style of projectile attack he has is just crazy. And he's got a lot of life as well. And then there's quad damage, which is just standard quad. And I can see what they're trying to do with these. They're trying to say, okay, we've got loadouts, so we're going to have a lot of power items on the map. So there's usually quad Revenant and the Gauss Cannon, at least on one of the maps that I played the most. And this means that there are pickups to be had, that are items to control, that aren't just the armors. So, I mean, I can see what they're going with that, but I'm not sure if they're perfectly balanced and if it's a perfect implementation to replace weapon pickups. But the whole loadout thing is just, yeah, it's problematic. This is an issue that is going to have to be explored with time. But yeah, my personal opinion is it's fine to have loadouts as long as there are servers who can turn them off, or game modes you can turn them off as well. Obviously, if there's 1v1, which I'm not sure there is, but if there is, then loadouts are a complete no-no. They only work where different people can be assigned a role in the team, and they can play as the rocket guy or as the sniper using this. I can't remember what the name of the weapon was, but essentially the railgun. And then it kind of works its way out because you have all the tools available to your team. Game modes, Warpath and TDM. Warpath feels a little bit contrived to me. I feel like it's trying a little bit too hard. I prefer traditional domination where... the problem with Warpath I felt is once you had the area, like standing in it to kind of control it further felt pointless because you were just a massive target. And also the spawning item system seemed a little bit weird. I don't feel like I didn't play a lot of Warpath because I didn't really enjoy it, but I felt like the normal items didn't spawn where they usually did. But yeah, Warpath wasn't all that interesting. I'm more interested in the other modes that are supposedly coming in. Give CTF please. Hack modules. Well, I can see what they're trying to do with it. Just trying to give the in-game personality to the player, something that they can have a little bit of control over. I think it's a stupid idea though. You're kind of copying the Call of Duty. One of them you got more armor per consecutive death, which just feels stupid to me. I don't know why you should be getting a benefit for dying. And next up on the movement, it feels pretty underwhelming to say the least. It's not particularly quick. It's not bad. Like the ground movement feels alright if there was something else to it, but there's not. That's a problem. Well, there is the opportunity for strafe jumping. There is a video of someone strafe jumping in the new Doom in a leaked kind of alpha client. Whether that's ever going to make it into the game is really up in the air at this point. We don't know, but that would definitely make it more interesting. And it's just after playing Reflex and Quake Live, it just feels so underwhelming. And maybe to a player that isn't used to that kind of game, it's fine, but it's just so drab and dreary. And the ledge grabs are just annoying. Sometimes I've ledge grabbed when I didn't want to. Sometimes I didn't ledge grab when I did want to. The distance you need to be away from the wall doesn't feel all that great. So I'm not a huge fan of the ledge grab. Maybe I feel if it was close, you had to be really close. I think that's better because then it feels a bit tighter. I guess overall the movement just feels a bit loose. It doesn't feel particularly refined or interesting, and the ledge grab is just another symptom of that. So overall feelings, I guess, to move on to just to wrap up, is the game feels like it's not really got a proper identity. It's sitting in this weird limbo between traditional arena FPS and modern console shooter, to be as mean as you possibly could be to it. So things like the hack modules, they're not interesting to probably a Call of Duty player because they're just placed in there and they're not really meaningful. Like the kill streaks and those kind of perks and things you can get in Call of Duty are just far more interesting within the scope of that game. For example, Martyrdom, that was one where you dropped a grenade on death. I mean, it's ridiculous, but at the same time it is meaningful in its own way. Whereas getting a tiny bit more armor per death is just it's so limp. It feels limp-wristed. Same thing with the announcer as well. But yeah, overall, just it feels like it's kind of in this weird limbo, and it's not gonna really appeal to either community. So the arena FPS community aren't gonna be like, yeah, this is what we really wanted, because it has these problematic things like the loadouts and the rockets detonating. People aren't gonna like that if you're a hardcore arena FPS player. But at the same time, I don't think the more casual market's gonna, they might be like, oh yeah, this is gory, this is cool for about an hour, similar to what happened with Evolve, but I think it doesn't do the console COD style things better than Call of Duty does it. It's kind of a poor mockery of those things, and because of that it only really has the weapons and the movement, and those things aren't even particularly good examples of arena FPS. That's my main issue with it. The game engine looks cool. I mean, the graphics look great. The maps, one of them, I can't remember the name of it, but the kind of the demony one with the blood dripping from the walls. It looks like really nice and visceral, and the map design isn't all that bad. It's fairly vertical. If there was a Quake 5 built with this engine using these weapon models, maybe scaled down a little bit in size. Overall, there's kind of a lot of features of a fantastic game in the making, but it's like Icarus. It kind of flew close to the sun, but burnt its own wings off in a kind of blaze of glory, and is now tumbling towards the earth as the release date beckons. And there's a worry for me that I don't think anyone's going to like it, because it's not appeasing any one camp. It's going to be interesting to see how it does, at least from a kind of third party point of view. I don't think I'm going to buy it myself, because I don't really like single player games, and the multiplayer doesn't do anything for me. But I really do feel like Overwatch is going to take that casual market, and Doom coming out at the same kind of time, it's just got no hope in kind of taking the casual market. I really feel like if id just went for the more hardcore route with the multiplayer, maybe then they would have appeased the more hardcore fans a little bit, and then the fans who want to be hardcore might respect the game a bit more and give it a bit more time of day. Yeah, make it Quake 5 using the engine and using these assets, because I could definitely see that coming a long way. But overall, yeah, I don't know. What a rate out of 10? 5? 5.5? Something like that. Not the worst thing that's ever been committed to game media, but certainly not the best. So I hope my thoughts on it are somewhat useful to some of you people out there. Just shouting into the wind. We've got more content coming for you quite soon, so enjoy that, and I'll see you quite shortly.